friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and it's on fire, man. We have got an awesome show for you today. First of all, we're going to have Sam Peters, congressional candidate, against Steven Horsford up in, I think it's CD4. I know it's North Las Vegas, North Southern Nevada, if you know what I mean. And he's running in a tight, tough race against Steven Horsford. If I'm not mistaken, we've got a slight lead in the latest polls, but who knows what's going on with the polls? Who knows what's going on with the voting? Who knows what's going on with the new election laws? Who knows? Spread the word, bring a friend, tell everyone you can, all right? And so we're going to be talking about he just had a debate. Things got really fiery. They're sitting right next to each other, and they're talking, and they disagree so much, and oh my god, it was must-see TV. And meanwhile, I didn't even realize it had happened until like 2 days later, and I'm super into this stuff, so I'm sure nobody's seen it. We got some highlights for you right here on the Johnny Brew Show. Also, the CCSD report cards came out, the SBAC scores, the ACT scores. Find out how the forced lockdowns of our children for over a year, the whole 2020-2021 school year, where every single child in Florida was at school for every single day and no child was at school at all for a single day, we finally found out what happened, and it doesn't look good. Also, breaking news from Power to Parent, they're changing the sex education, the very controversial sex education policy at CCSD. Instead of parents opting in to let their children learn about this new wave, or however the new curriculum for sex education, now parents will have to be proactive and opt out. What does that mean? Deborah Earl, Vice President of Power to Parents, is going to join us, as well as James Blockey, who was a candidate for Secretary of Education under Donald Trump, a position that was ultimately taken by Betsy DeVos. But James Blockey was one of the candidates, and he hopes, if there's a Trump victory in 2024, that he will not only be considered for that position this time, but he might actually get it. So, last week, well, first things first, I saw a great video, something I had to share. This is one of the great pastors here in Las Vegas. It's Red Rock here. It's Cavalry Red Rock, right here on Buffalo and right off of the 215 over here. And this is a pastor talking about Dr. John Petrick and how he helped at the pain center that he runs. You got that ready? Play tape.
I was introduced to Dr. John Petrick through pain. He's a pain management doctor. So I began seeing him months ago, at the beginning of this year, actually. Experienced immediate results, and I knew right out of the gate as a doctor, he was spot on in what he did and what he was called to do. He began to share with me his heart, especially for those that are downtrodden, the homeless community, and some of the visions and efforts that has been involved in. And as I got to know Dr. John more and more, my heart was drawn to his on a spiritual level as well. I realized we spoke the same language. Very blessed to know this man. I am very blessed to support this man, and I will be here in whatever means and capacity I can be as a pastor to come up alongside of him and support him in everything that he does.
Pardon me. And if I may say so, I was talking to my wife about this earlier, about our pastors and how much they discuss politics and, consider politics in their sermons. And, my particular pastor, I go to Red Rock, Las Vegas, and he speaks a little bit about politics, but not much at all. And Pastor Greg Seymour at Red Rock Calvary speaks a lot more about politics. And my wife likes it when pastors aren't speaking about politics. She likes to keep that separate. And my thought was, that's how it should be. But in the world we're living in, my point was we need pastors to be speaking out. Because it's not talking about tax policy, trade deals, deals with OPEC, or even the war with Russia. You're right. If that's what our federal government was solely working on, which is what they should be solely working on, then pastors shouldn't be discussing politics. But when they're trying to teach transgenderism in school, or if they're trying to do things that are ungodly, I do believe that our worship leaders should lead us. So, that's my 2 cents about that. Last week, we had Mac Miller and Katie Williams. We would discuss. Mac Miller came live from the Trump event, which we're going to address with Sam Peters in a little while. And Katie Williams was talking about the decision to renew Jared's contract, which was not super popular with some of you guys, the listeners of the Johnny Brew Show. But she came on, she explained her position. Today, you might realize that she did something that you guys will be very happy about. But nonetheless, that's how it is with the politics of the CCSD school board. All right, I'm already way behind time. What I do want to talk about is the Republican platform. All right? We're constantly fighting these fights. And I think the message has gotten so warped that us as conservatives have lost sight of being able to explain the way we really feel. For example, we are against, and when I say we, I'm going to use that term loosely. I mean me, but I like to consider myself Joe Conservative, okay? So, me personally, I'm against the Green New Deal. I don't want to send billions of taxpayer dollars to Paris so the elites could divvy it up and decide to build a couple of solar farms in Africa, buy coal farms and oil production wells in China because they're a developing country, and we are contributing over 50% of the budget to organization that is supposed to be having like 80 countries participate in it. So it doesn't make sense to me. But that doesn't mean I'm against the environment, or we as Republicans. We're conservatives. We want to conserve things. We don't want a bunch of houses built up in Red Rock. We don't want a bunch of high rises coming out of the desert. We want to preserve our natural lands, and we want to take care of the environment. We want to be prepared for any kind of calamities, if that's the right word I'm looking for. Such as hurricanes. How do we respond to hurricanes? You can't prevent a hurricane, but we need to be prepared for them so we can help people. We want to make sure people can afford to heat their homes. I mean, that's being environmentally conscious as well. Just because we want cleaner energy. We want oil production to be cleaner, which it is exponentially cleaner than it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, we've increased our oil production, yet decreased our carbon footprint. All right? We're against defunding the police, but we're not trying to lock people up. All right? This no bail thing is ridiculous. If you're a violent offender, you need to be in jail. Whether you're talking about the domestic abuse of the guy who stabbed those showgirls and a bunch of other people, 8 people in total, killing 2, or you're talking about this POS who just shot the cop over by UNLV, this great 21-year veteran or something like that. I mean, he got arrested less than 2 years ago for threatening somebody with a gun. And with our gun laws, you're not allowed, unless you have a concealed carry permit, you're not allowed to be brandishing weapons, using it to threaten people. How is he not still in jail 18 months later? It's crazy. So don't people understand that less laws means more justice? More laws means less justice. If we have too many laws on the books, you find the person, I'll find the crime. Let's keep it simple and keep the violent offenders locked up, and the non-violent offenders, trip them up with fines or community service and no bail or whatnot. But if you're violent, you gotta go. we're against illegal immigration. But we are pro-immigrant, 100%. From the Asian American groups, the Latinos coming over to realizing conservatism is the better choice. I mean, we love diversity. We love different ethnicities. We love legal immigration. We just can't have millions of people pouring across the border. That doesn't mean we're against immigration or immigrants. We're against crony capitalism. All right? They keep talking, capitalism, and then you got these big wigs like who are making decisions over our heads, and we're against that. And then Democrats blaming capitalists for crony capitalism is like blaming humans for cancer. Humans don't like cancer. Cancer kills humans. And crony capitalism kills capitalism. So real capitalists are not in favor of crony capitalism. We want laissez-faire hands-off, but of course, we have to have trust busters. We have anti-monopoly. We have all these antitrust laws in position to try to dissuade this from happening. We're not using those powers. Also, we're against blank checks to Ukraine. It doesn't mean we're pro-Putin. All right? We're anti-Roe v. Wade. All right? Because it's not a federal issue. It's a state issue. Number one. Number two, we're against abortion being a form of birth control. We're against abortion in the 7th, 8th, 9th month of pregnancy. All right? Now, devout evangelists and Christians, yes, they are against abortion 100%. But here in America, we understand that not everybody is a Christian. All right? And we understand there has to be some compromise. The Democrats don't want to compromise. Even I wish there was no abortion at all. But I understand if a 9-year-old has incestual rape with her uncle, or somebody's going to get sick, or even if it's in the 8th or 9th month of the pregnancy and the mother, her health is in danger. Of course we need to save the mother or put that decision in the mother's hands. We're not anti-abortion. We're anti-abortion as birth control. We're you could decide whatever you want, even if it's in the 9th month of pregnancy. So we need to start realizing that the message is muddled. Speaking of muddled messages, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clock. I'm already behind. We got Sam Peters joining us. I got some clips of the debate that you never saw, and it got quite contentious, and I just wanted to share a little bit with you guys at home before I talk to Sam Peters about it. We got this ready? Here's a couple of clips. Here's the first clip. Play tape.
The night. I'm sure there'll be more, and I'm going to correct the record every single time.
You
said that Democrats have not worked to pass land legislation.
No, I said they wouldn't be successful.
Mr. Peters, please don't talk over me.
I said they wouldn't be successful.
We were successful. In 2014, we passed the largest public lands bill in decades. Guess who I worked with to pass that bill? Former Congressman and the late Don Young from Arkansas. Guess
welcome
who else
to
I worked with?
2022.
Congressman.
We're talking about 2022.
Sir, you just said that we didn't do anything. It was the largest lands bill passed in Congress in decades, and that bill provided lands that we're using right now. Do you know we just broke ground in land across from the VA hospital for a new medical complex that was the beneficiary of the land was from the lands bill that I passed in 2014.
Yeah, let's talk about
in addition,
2022.
the affordable housing that's coming in the northwest part of the valley for veterans, for the Creech Air Force Base, it's from land that was passed in 2014 from the public lands bill. You need to know the process in order to be able to talk about how these issues affect Nevadans.
Let's talk about 2022 in August, when Senator Catherine Cortez Masto failed to get a Clark County lands bill passed with the all-Democrat county commission. 41,000 acres, she dropped it to 25,000 acres to try and appease them and get it passed for some of these things that we're talking about, and it's scrapped. It's off the table.
It actually isn't.
It is.
This Congress isn't over. No, it's actually not.
It's
this
off
Congress
the table.
Isn't over. We work until the beginning of January.
So you're bringing up 2014, and I want to point out. Excuse me. You asked me not to talk over you, so now is my turn. You brought up 2014, and that is a great segue to the fact that you have been in office forever. And the problems that we,
sir, how long have I been?
You
in
are
office?
A career politician,
Sir,
Stephen.
I'm a
you know
public
you are.
servant.
Are you though?
I ran the largest
Are
job
you?
training center for 10 years in this community. I helped thousands of people.
Gentlemen, the 2-minute open discussion period has closed.
I'm telling you guys, it was really good stuff, man. And I thought Sam did a great job. And, you know, I do have to say, man, that Steven Horsford, he is a good-looking, smooth-talking dude. But, obviously, Sam Peters has all the right ideas, and he's kicking butt, man. I mean, wow, here's another clip. This is Sam talking about speaking before Trump spoke, when Trump just visited last week. You got that ready? Play tape.
You
Carter,
commended.
we can go back.
You said he was the best president yesterday.
I didn't actually say that at all. Did you watch my speech?
No, not really. I was talking to
then
voters.
how can you quote me? Again, lies from your congressman. Here's what I also found. This is what I did when on my way to Minden. I had events in Beatty. I talked to voters. I had events in Hawthorne.
You opened up the speech for former President Donald Trump, who you also supported and said.
So in Tonopah, he talked about supply chains.
That Trump won the Nevada election. And
I did not say that. I've never said that. I have never said that.
You didn't support the big lie that Donald Trump lost.
I have never said that.
Do you say today that President Joe Biden?
Joe Biden is the president. I said that in
was
March
he duly
of 21.
elected in Nevada?
I said
was he duly elected in Nevada?
What did you say in March of 21?
In March of 21.
What did you say in 2020?
Excuse me, may I? She asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it. In March in 21, I was interviewed by the New York Times.
The election was in November of 2020.
In March of 21, I was interviewed by the New York Times, and they asked me if Joe Biden was the duly elected president.
What did you say in
said
November
yes.
of 2020?
And
did you
win
challenge
that
Nevada
election
electors?
outright?
He is the president of the United States.
He won the election fairly.
Did you
talk about the supply chain?
I think that
he talked about the supply chain. Here's what I want to share. When I was in Tonopah on the way back from Minden, I went into the grocery store in Tonopah. And what I found was baby formula in a locked cabinet out of reach of consumers. So you want to talk about supply chains, and you want to talk about your effectiveness as a congressman.
Not one Republican voted for the bill to provide more formula relief. Because you guys are against families. You are only for big corporations.
I have a great family.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Before we move on to the next topic,
It's so exciting. Oh, my God. And then, and Sam Peters is in the green room, ready to go, talk about this stuff. One more clip I'm going to play before we bring Sam Peters on. This is them talking about Sam Peters, obviously a small business owner. And then, you know, Horsford tries to pull didn't you get some PPP money? And, you know, like if you were taking money, well, then how can you be against, you know, I'll let you watch the tape. It's just so exciting. Go ahead, play tape.
Down our economy, my business included, we wouldn't have had to spend trillions of dollars
Who shut down your business?
and
Mr.
do you
Peters?
acknowledge that you did have
Governor Sisolak
He
did.
came in and closed your business?
And where were you,
Mr. Peters?
No, I had commissioners or community or county folks at my door, knocking on my door to make sure that we were closed. Yes, I did. That is a fact. I can show you the documents on that if
Mr.
you
Peters,
like.
do you acknowledge that you did have the loan forgiven, that you're not going to repay it?
I had 72. I took a loan for the PPP for $72,000. It allowed me to pay every one of my employees. None of my employees lost a single hour of pay. Dominique, a single mother, a child at home of 4 years old, was able to keep food on her table during a 2-year-long shutdown because of these funds. Yes, I took those funds because in a shutdown scenario that we were under, my business lost over 25% of revenue for 2 years straight.
Because
You did have that loan forgiven.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. As part of the program that was put forward, that loan was forgiven. Yes, it was.
And
again, every single dollar of it went to my employees so they could put food on their table.
All right.
And the reason, and to answer his question, it's a
family-owned business. Did anyone in your family
no,
receive pay?
Not a single dollar.
Right.
Thank you very
Glad
much.
To put that on the record.
I will put that on record.
And are you for students getting relief
I'm going to answer
from
your
their
question. You asked
loan?
me. You
You
asked me why Republicans didn't vote
you
for it because they know the inflation that it would bring.
for the loans that they're being forgiven since your loan was forgiven?
I don't agree.
Are you yes or no?
I do not agree with
Okay,
student
so it was
loan
okay for
forgiveness
you
program.
to have your loan
Completely
forgiven.
different scenario, sir.
$72,000.
I had no choice
but he
in the
doesn't want
shutdown.
students.
I had no
70%
choice in the
of
shutdown.
Nevadans receive a Pell Grant and benefit from getting their student loan forgiven.
And
70%.
Congressman and Mr. Peters, we're
He's
going to move
against
on
that.
to the next topic.
But he's for taking
And the
it,
Congressional
taking the
Budget
dough
Office
himself.
has said that this
Take the dough,
more
but-
inflation
but support
and
the
more
people
debt.
who vote no.
More debt. Keep piling on the debt, Steve.
Keep piling on the debt, Steve. So, with that, I'd like to see, do we have Sam ready? Hey, Sam Peters, welcome. How you doing? See, do we have Sam ready? Hey, Sam Peters, welcome. How you doing? I need you to mute your the feed there, Sam.
Hang on, let me shut that off. All right, there we are.
Beauty. How you doing, man? I know you rushed back from a campaign event, so thank you.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Johnny, and thanks for airing those clips. Those were nice moments to relive.
Well, you know, I've now watched it 3 times, and I don't hate it. I mean, I love it every time. I feel like I'm watching Rocky IV for the 3rd time.
I'll tell you what, when it was over, I felt like Rocky IV had just ended.
That's awesome. And then how is it afterwards? You guys cool with each other? You shake hands, or is it there a little?
We shook hands. Look, we shook hands when we walked on. We exchanged pleasantries. We exchanged pleasantries on the way out. There's no love lost there. He's a human being. I'm a human being. I don't dislike Steven. I don't like his politics one iota. I think he's done some incredible damage along with his party, and it's damage that's going to continue. And we're living in it, unfortunately. And he's not the right guy for the job. I made a comment in there. You showed the clip. I said he's been in Congress he's been a politician forever. And,
I think it's like 2004 he got his first.
Yeah, 2004. Yeah, in 2004 I think he went to the state senate. But even before that, he worked in bureaucracy. And it's unfortunate. He doesn't represent the mainstream the mom and pops, the family businesses like I had. And he's just out of touch. He's out of touch with Nevadans, and it's time for him to go.
And then just talking about like the last clip we were watching, talking about the PPP, for example, and he was talking about like if you take the PPP grant, which first of all, I believe falls under eminent domain. If they tell you they're going to build a highway over your house, they got to give you money for your house. If they tell you got to close the doors to your business, they got to make up for that because they're infringing on our freedom. But they got to do what they got to do. So I think it's apples and oranges, number one. But even consider me, I'm a Pell Grant recipient. I have student loan debt. I'm a teacher. Now, I do not believe in this Student Loan Forgiveness Act whatsoever. But does that mean I'm supposed to like not apply for the student loan forgiveness or send back the money if they automatically pay off my student debt? I mean, I don't understand the logic that they try to push on us when if what they're saying is true, then it truly is a way to just pay out their friends. Because if all us conservatives are supposed to say we don't believe in that, then it's really just Democrats getting the handouts.
Well, it's hypocrisy at the highest level is what it is. What Steven Horsford did not bring up was one of his colleagues, Susie Lee. I think she took something like $3 million in PPP loans. So what about her? What he was trying to point out was I'm against the incredible excessive government spendings, and then because they shut my business down, I had to use those funds, those relief funds, literally to pay my people. And again, I will repeat. Yes, I took $72,000 in loans. It paid 8 employees over a 12 or more week period, every single dollar, and I purposely did not use those funds to pay myself or my family.
And that good thing you didn't, because I mean, 100% you were entitled to it. You are an employee. But being that you didn't, and that was one of my favorite moments of the debate because he knew that most people would do the, pay themselves also. And when he tried to give you that dig, you were like, no, as a matter of fact, not 1 cent went to a person named Peters.
Not a dollar.
Well, there you go. So then as I'm watching this, I was considering, I don't know if you saw the beginning about, how we need to frame our message. And I noticed it when you were debating and we were talking about abortion. And it's funny, and it's kind of a two different approaches. First of all, again, you said, Republicans, or you said, you spoke for yourself. I'm trying to speak for Republicans in general. No Republicans are saying that a 9-year-old in an incestuous relationship should be forced to have a baby. Obviously we pray that they get that abortion, like within 2 months or 1 month of getting pregnant, not at 8 months or 9 months and then be like, and then even they say that, like a late term abortion. What about incest or this, that, or rape? And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with a third trimester abortion? It's not, you're arguing two different points. And again, Republicans aren't saying, never, ever, no abortion. I don't care about rape. I don't care about incest. Maybe one or two are. And then they also bring up that an organization that might believe in that donates to you. Like that's the most far-fetched thing when they're taking donations from organizations like Black Lives Matter, who burned down half the country.
Right. So a couple of things there. You're right. There's very few, if any, and I haven't run into any Republicans that are saying, ban all abortion. I mean, obviously, as I'm a pro-life candidate, I said it in the debate, I'm a pro-life candidate. I will always advocate for life because babies are amazing. It's an amazing experience. You have children. I have children. If you've gone through that process and in a loving way, it's phenomenal. But there's a lot of situations where it's not a loving scenario, and and people have to make choices. But what they're doing is saying they're using, every time they talk about it, they use the word ban. Republicans want to ban abortion, which puts it in that context, and nobody's using that context on our side.
Right.
What the Republicans are looking for are reasonable limits. And in Nevada, as I think I said it in the debate, was we have 24 weeks in Nevada, 6 months. You can make a decision in 6 months. That's a very reasonable time. And
indeed, right. And, I would hope that we could get that in the first trimester if it was a situation that absolutely called for it, which I think is very rare. And it's funny because it's almost like the Republican stance is safe, legal, and rare is almost our term. And now we're the radicals, the stupid show with the girls with the hood, I forget.
No, you're absolutely right. But they keep going back to the wording of ban. And, they've spent $3 million against me, they being the Democrat Party. They've spent over $3 million against me on television ads, digital ads, et cetera, spouting those words. And it's completely false. It's a completely false narrative. But the beauty of it is they have nothing else to go on, nothing else, no other solutions bringing to the table. And the people that I talk to across the district that see these videos, to see these attack ads, they see right through it. They see absolutely right through it. And quite frankly, I've had a number of people tell me that the ads are helping me more than helping him.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you could speak for Sigal Chad and April Becker, but you could speak for yourself. And yous are the three that I see on TV the most, with the big red screen saying these people want to lock up women who consider abortion. So, I mean, I think I could speak for Sigal and April, and maybe you could speak for yourself. You guys don't believe in that, even though that's their number one campaign message?
No, that's not it at all. It's not it at all. We would like here. So here's another piece, right? The Democrats call themselves the party of choice, but they're only offering one choice. They're not talking about funding for adoption when it's easier to go to China and adopt a baby versus down the street and adopt a baby. That's a problem. We should be addressing that, and that should be an option. They're not talking about surrogacy. They're not talking about Women's Resource Center of Southern Nevada or Priority First Pregnancy Center.
Or attacks on these places that are trying to help women have the baby.
And these organizations are phenomenal organizations that help women through these processes. Again, going back to when it's a difficult circumstance or whatever the case. And they're not saying you can't have an abortion. They're saying there's options.
Right. Be educated choices. And make an educated decision.
And because it's a significant event, and it should be treated with some delicacy. The Democrats, and you saw it on the debate if you watched it all the way through. Steven Horsford would not commit to a
banning third trimester. Exactly.
Yeah, and we pressed him on it, and he would not commit to that.
And so I would definitely.
The essence of that is he is for third trimester abortions.
Right, and I would definitely encourage people to watch the debate because it's really, really good, and more so I would encourage people to show somebody who's on the fence about this particular election. Make sure they get to see this debate because it was riveting. And I think you did a great job. I'm really impressed. And,
thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And I think the number one message that we got to make sure, and let's leave it at this, is abortion truly is not on the ballot. And people need to stop acting like, whether you or Horsford win, abortion is not going to change in Nevada whatsoever.
Correct. Nevada's abortion law has already been settled, like I said on the debate. Here's what's on the ballot, Johnny, I got to talk about this. What's on the ballot is an open border. What's on the ballot is 16% inflation, $5.38 a gas, and going up. It's going up, I promise you. With what's happening in this administration and OPEC and all our destruction of our energy independence, it's going up. Those things are on the ballot. Your pocketbook is on the ballot. And if you want to empty your pocketbook into an empty coffer, then you vote for the Democrat. If you want some sense in government, you vote for us.
What if somebody wanted to empty their pocketbook into a conservative coffer? Where can they find Sam Peters?
So here I had somebody tell me this on the campaign trail. You either donate to a Republican or the Democrats are going to take it anyway.
Good. So where can people find you online?
SamPeters4Congress.com. Thank you so much, buddy.
All right, well, keep up the good fight, Sam, and I hope to see you again before Election Day.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Have a good one.
And you.
All right, that's Sam Peters. That's CD4, which is north southern Nevada. The whole top half of Nevada is CD2. And then from the middle of Nevada all the way down to including North Las Vegas is CD4. And then we have CD1 and 3 in Vegas and even more southern Nevada. All right, and moving on. Again, check out that video. Just type up in YouTube Horsford and Peters debate. It'll come right up. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys about a report that just came out. Nevada has been perennially, in the past 20 years, always 46th, 48th, 50th, even 51st in education. And now we found out, thanks to the lockdowns, things have gotten markedly worse. All right, this is an article in the CCSD, in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The percentage of Clark County School District students who were proficient on standardized tests last year fell significantly below the district's goals, and those goals are not very high. The school board heard an information-only presentation on Thursday that was almost 2 hours about student achievement, including the targets set in its focus for 2024 and their 5-year strategic plan. Information presented to the trustees showed students lagged behind compared with the pre-COVID-19 pandemic period, but showed improvement after in-class resumed. Like, duh, of course. But we were disgusting. And then they locked it down and we got way worse. And then they opened up the schools and it came back just a little bit. Superintendent Jesus Jarrah said the presentation is in line with the school board's continuous monitoring of this academic achievement. And he said he knows the board, with himself and his team, isn't satisfied with the numbers. This is the same board that last week gave him straight A's on his report card. And now they're all saying, we all know and we all say that they're not satisfied with the numbers. So how did he just get the raise in the contract extension resulting from the perfect report card he just got from the trustees? Doesn't make sense. On the Smarter Balanced Assessment, that's what we call the SBAC tests. There's a lot of acronyms. There's SBACs, there's MAPs, there's EOCs, and there's finals. All four of those are just kinds of tests that, grade student overall achievement. So on the SBACs, which is the one that's pretty much the standard across the country, or at least for half of the states, it's a standardized test that's given in the spring, and 41% of third graders through fifth graders were proficient. 41% of elementary schools are proficient in English. That's below the target of 63% and dropped with nearly 50% at the close of the 2018-2019 school year. So we were at 50%, which is horrible, like the worst in the nation. We had a target of 63, but we fell down to 41 because we locked down the kids. In math, 31% of third graders through fifth graders are proficient, below the goal of 56% and the 42% that we had before COVID. 31%. 42% of middle schoolers are proficient in English, down from 47% and a goal of 61. And in math, 22% of middle schoolers at CCSD are proficient in math. 1 in 5. Down from 31%, less than 1 in 3 in pre-pandemic. And their goal was 46%. Their goal was less than 50% proficiency. And let me tell you, I'm a math teacher, all right? I have 59, 60% every single time. Actually, it was well over 60% pre-pandemic. But still, 60%. It's just teach the kids. Trustee Danielle Ford said she would like to see student achievement data broken down by school and trustee district and an examination of the factors behind the bright spots as well as the school's geographic areas where students struggle most. Sounds like she's looking for a data-centered solution, but she doesn't have the data yet. Lola Brooks said that context matters when looking at student data, noting officials cannot just look at a single data point. So there's a contrast right there. Danielle Ford is saying, I need more data so we can find a way to solve this. Lola Brooks says, the context matters here. Like 21% of students in middle school are proficient at math, but let's not take that out of context. Lola Brooks, get a grip, please. A fan of the Johnny Brew Show, and I believe somebody who's a little more left-leaning, Autumn Tampa, said she enjoyed the presentation and found it informative. She says the numbers and data can give good information, but she also suggested that leaders should go into classrooms and observe and have a real heart-to-heart conversation with the employees. Hey, Autumn Tampa, you're the kind of liberal I like. We might not agree on everything, but you try to find solutions. You're open at talking to people. I see you discussing things with my conservative friends on my Facebook page. And God bless you, all right? Thank you. And hopefully we win you over on some of these important other topics. They also talk about ACT scores. I'm running behind, so I'm going to skip over ACT. But this guy, Manzi, from the district, I need to make sure you understand this. He said, just like Lola Brooks said, we need to take this in context. Manzi says Nevada is one of only 6 states that provides equitable access to the ACT to help reduce the barriers for students to post-high school opportunities. So it doesn't matter that our grades stink. What matters is that we're giving equitable access to take the test. And then he said, Nevada is among the highest states for its ELL, English language learner population, and students who qualify for free or reduced price lunches, and we're among the lowest in per pupil funding. So it doesn't matter our grades because we have a lot of ELL students and poor students. And it's not true about that per pupil funding. Look at our expenditures and divide that by 300,000. We're not the lowest, all right? Anyway, to talk about this, we got Jim Blockey coming on with us. He was one of a short list of candidates, that was on a short list of candidates for President Trump's Secretary of Education gig that ended up going to Betsy DeVos. He's hoping that in 2024, he will actually be our next Secretary of Education. And of course, this education segment is brought to you by Infinity the Math Institute, where you don't get more math problems, you get solutions.
Infinity the Math Institute. Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
So go to themathinstitute.com or just call or text 702-768-1777. And now, without further ado, someone I've been excited to have on the show for quite a while, Mr. Jim Blockey. Jim, how you doing today?
How you doing?
Very, very good. Were you able to hear about that article from the RJ?
Yeah, I read it.
And what's your take?
There's not a thing that's surprising about it. I mean, we have the worst school system here. We don't teach our kids the right way to read. We don't teach kids how to do math. So how would you really expect our kids to do any better than those scores? COVID hurt. But it really didn't hurt that much. I mean, the only thing that COVID did was it really awakened a lot of people as to what is really happening and what is really being taught in our schools. And that's, nothing's going to change until they change what's being taught in our schools. The same.
Well, you've been in education a long time. I mean, you've worn many different hats, from administrative principal to working with kids and teaching yourself. How has education evolved, and what do you mean by we're teaching them the wrong stuff?
Well, okay, let's take reading. Let's start off with that. The most important thing in a kid's life will be reading, because that's the only way they're going to be able to,
teach
research,
themselves.
What anybody says. If they don't know how to read, then they're just going to listen to what the networks tell them and not go research it for themselves. And how we teach how to read literally causes dyslexia, and literally has knocked our adult illiteracy from 2% to 40% in 20 years. And so we teach how to read it's a look-say method. It uses a little bit of phonics now, but not altogether phonics. And when we use pictures with the alphabet, that causes dyslexia, causes actually a lot of learning disabilities like ADHD. So that's the first thing. And and it's not like they didn't know this back in the 30s when they started this. They were told. Rudolph Flesch and several people told them that, hey, if you change it, you do this look-say method, it's going to screw the kids up.
All right, but then let me ask you a question. Now, I teach, and during this COVID pandemic, my numbers went down as well, but they went down to 59% proficient. And I'm getting the same kids. I mean, I'm here in Las Vegas. I've just met these kids in 8th grade. It's not like I've been teaching them 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I get a group of kids and I'm able to get 60% proficiency. I have a partner. She teaches English and social studies, and she got 79% proficiency in English. So I don't understand. Why can't we get more kids to learn? I mean, are we literally like spending too much time talking about wrong topics? Are we not spending enough time? I mean, they all take a math class every year.
Well, that's just it too. And, as a teacher, there was one year that, I had 11 out of my 12 kids pass the proficiency test, which is unheard of. And those were expelled kids.
That's 92%.
Yeah, that's a lot. 11 out of 12 is really good. But then the next year I had 2 out of 13. See, the problem is we're putting all the onus on the teacher. Have you ever heard the slogan or the saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. You can throw a kid in the classroom, but you can't make him learn. That comes from his parents and that comes from himself. I can do whatever I can to motivate him, but if he doesn't have that motivation in the first place, he is not going to learn in my class, especially with the lack of discipline they have in our schools right now, because the kid's just going to act like a goof. And the thing is that year I had 11 out of 12 students. There was 11, and it was expelled kids. Those 11 kids were all pretty good kids.
And that's my point exactly. It doesn't matter as long as you have 100% participation. But if one of those 12 kids is acting out, then all of a sudden, I guarantee you exponentially get worse scores across the board because it's taken away from, and we can't get rid of the problem students in the classroom, whether you're at CCSD or you're at a charter school.
That's why they hated me when I was teaching, is because I always told them, I says, it's up to the principals to back the teachers. Now, I had a principal who literally, when I threw a kid would call me an a-hole, and I would throw him out of class, and the principal would say, he would tell the student he was right. Mr. Blockey is an a-hole. And then he'd feed him lunch. And so that's a problem. But I mean, yeah, do you expect him to ever respect me or give me any kind of respect? No, that's not going to happen.
And then when another child sees that he's disrespecting you and there's no consequence, then they realize that they could do the same thing.
That's right. It's like a hill. It's a tumbling thing that just goes downhill. And that's why it's taken several years, a few, decades maybe, but that's why you see absolutely no discipline in our schools, because teachers are afraid. They're afraid that they'll get hollered at, because teachers are actually evaluated. One of the biggest things they're evaluated on is how many kids they kick out of the classroom.
And teacher evaluations is something else we need to talk about, but we need to switch gears right now. When we were show prepping this morning, I found out some breaking news on the Power to Parent website that they're changing the sexual course curriculum, that this new sexual course curriculum, they're changing it to an opt-out policy. You're automatically in, instead of making it an opt-in policy for parents who desire their children to be learning some of this stuff. We actually we have Deborah Earl, who is the vice president of Power to Parent. She's the one who broke this story for us on Facebook, and we thought instead of reading what she wrote on the post, maybe she could tell us what they found out and what you guys are going to be doing about it. Welcome, Deborah. How are you?
Fine. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So what's going on? They're now asking parents to be proactive and actually tell the teachers they don't want their children in this class? I mean, which obviously presents a problem because not all parents are proactive or plugged into what's going on.
For sure. Parents really appreciate the opportunity to opt their children into sex education, because then they can be a part of that critical conversation. They can attach their values to it. They can talk to their kids about these things. We think it's great for parents to talk to their kids about these things, because their decisions in this area of their lives, especially when they're developing, has tremendous consequences for the long term for them and the short term, and especially in education. And we are baffled by this priority. I'll just tell you what happened. For 8 years, at least as long as I've been around, and Power to Parent, we've been in this about 10 years. They've been trying to get opt-in changed to opt-out. Currently, opt-in says health teacher has to have a signed permission slip for those kids to participate. 95% of those permission slips are getting returned. So there really is no issue here. These kids are, having this conversation with their parents. They're either opting them in or opting them out, but 95%.
But maybe you come from a Mormon family or a Christian family, and your 1 out of 20 parents say, no, I prefer you didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could do that, but a lot of kids opt into this. But the point is the parents get to choose. There is no reason for them to cut parents out of this important conversation, but this is a trend, a national trend, for the schools to cut parents out of the educational process. And this is why our performance scores are low, because parents don't have options. They don't have choices. They don't have input. And, their involvement is the number one indicator for success. And one of the reasons why they want to cut these parents out of the sex education conversation is so that they can teach them what they want, so that they can teach them, ideology that may not be in line. Just like you mentioned, there might be Christians who maybe don't agree with LGBTQ ideology. Maybe they espouse traditional marriage, or maybe they feel differently, or
abstinence.
But or abstinence. These teachers, and many of them who are teaching in the special interest groups, want your kids to think differently than their parents. And so the Clark County School District trustees get 2 BDRs. They get 2 legislative bills. They chose those. Those bills are statewide teacher shortage and establishing standards for qualifications for school board trustees. We thought those were great. But then with mental health and school safety, they lumped in changing opt-in to opt-out, which means that parents will not know when those conversations are taking place. So it's a real problem, and parents are really going to have to be vigilant moving forward into the legislative session, so we can know what bills those are and when we need to call our legislators.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing. And, Jim, it's funny. Me and you have had a few conversations about education. It sounds like Deborah would fit right in with us. I know there's certain things that rang true. I've talked to you before, and there's a couple of things that Deborah said that I'm sure piqued your interest that you might want to elaborate on. So the floor is yours.
The thing, I'm a fix the problem guy. I'm not a fix what the problem caused. So if I've got a hole in my ceiling, a hole in my roof, I don't fix the things that were broken by the hole in the roof. I fix the hole in the roof first. And the schools have no business teaching sex, period. Sex ed doesn't even belong in our schools. And, and I've told you this before, it's against the law what they're doing, because when they took her out of school way back in the 60s, the Supreme Court said you can't teach for or against any religion. And that's what we should be fighting for. Is right now they teach, I'm a Christian, and I don't believe in sex outside of marriage. I don't believe in homosexuality or any of the LGBTQ stuff. That goes against my religion. Abortion goes against my religion. Selfishness, that goes against my religion. They shouldn't be teaching these social things. They should be teaching kids how to read phonetically, math without calculators, and the real history of this country. And until we get to that point, nothing we do is going to work. Because what we're doing is we are fixing, like if you have a leaky faucet and you got water on the floor, we keep sweeping up the water, but we don't fix the leaky faucet. Until we fix the leaky faucet, we're going to continue on having water on the floor. We're going to continue having these transgender bathroom problems. Now they're throwing, and all this stuff is to take our focus off the real problem. And that's what this bill is intended to do, instead of the opt-in or opt-out or whatever it is. That's just to take our focus off of what we really need to do. What we really need to do is say, hey, no, we're not going to teach sex ed. We're not going to teach CRT. That's against the law. We're not going to do that anymore. And, that we put. I told you about the bill that Dr. Petrick had.
Well, and that's my next question. You're stealing my thunder now, Jim. So,
sorry.
Both of you guys are very proactive, and I know both of you guys are actually doing things in order to try to help parents have a better voice or have less of this, progressive stuff in school. So, Jim, like you were alluding to, what is it that you're particularly working on? And then Deborah, I'd like to ask you the same question.
There's a bill that get rid of all the social subjects. And when I say social subjects, I'm talking about subjects that parents are supposed to take care of. I teach my kid about sex. I can teach my kid all that stuff, not to be racist and all that. And that's where the problem is. And the thing is even if we do the opt-in or opt-out, they're still going to teach our kids about sex. They're still going to teach them, give them a condom. They're still going to ask the boys if they're sure they're a boy. And they're still going to do that. It might not be in the sex ed class, but it's going to happen somewhere. And the only way you stop that is by you make it illegal and you fire the teachers if they try to do that kind of thing. Because that's the only way you're going to fix it, is changing the curriculum. Stop teaching. There was a newspaper article in 1974 that said at that time 59% of the time was spent on social subjects, 41% was spent on core subjects. Okay, that's just not, and then you wonder, oh gosh, why is school so bad? Why are schools suck? Why are these kids turning out so radical? Because they don't have discipline, they don't know how to do math, and they can't read worth a darn.
And lower expectations. Deborah, what is Power to Parent doing?
I mean, the bar is on the floor, it's so low.
Well, Power to Parent is raising awareness about these issues. We're empowering parents to know how they can advocate for their children. For example, I had a parent call me the other day and say, we have a co-ed bathroom at our private school. It's inappropriate. Went to the principal said, oh, but they're floor to ceiling, they're fine. And we talked about it, and I said, you're the parent. You're also paying the tuition there. And so they have an interest in keeping these parents happy. So she went back with a bunch of parents from that school. I helped her understand that she can do something. So we formed a parent union. We're the new special interest group in town. If we band parents together and we inform them on these issues and remind them of their rights and remind them who works for them, that then we will get to a point where they won't be able to pass this kind of legislation, because there will be such incredible pushback from the majority, the current silent majority. This is about our kids. This is about their futures. This is about focusing our energies in places that will work, that where we'll be effective. But we need people to join us. We need people to be active and to stay informed and then know what to do to advocate. And that is what we're focused on.
And number one, you guys ain't really the new kids on the block. I know that a lot of us, Jim and Power to Parent, you guys have been doing this a long time. I'm a little new to the show. You guys, I think you started in 2014. If anybody wants to find out more about Power to Parent, go to powertoparent.org. Or also look on previous seasons of the Johnny Brew Show, where Aaron Phillips, Charlie De La Paz have joined us in the past. It's a really great, it's really just a parent advocacy group. Anything that parents need a voice for, they're going to bat for you guys and helping you organize. And like Deborah just said, they're teaching you that your voice does matter. So both of you guys, thank you so much for helping educate people on what's going on. And good luck on all your endeavors.
Ciao.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. All right, well, I mean, we're over time. I mean, what a great episode. Thank you so much to our guest. Sam Peters was incredible, as always. It was great to meet Deborah Earl. That's the first time I really got a chance to talk to her. I'm glad Aaron Phillips made that introduction, and James Blockey, we're glad to finally get him on. Also, I want to finish it with a little bit of levity. My boy AG continues to pump out the material. So let's take a quick look at AG's latest video if we got that ready. Play tape.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's AG from the Western Journal. And last week I asked for you to leave your name and where you're watching from. And some of you did, so let's give some shout outs. On TikTok, we have P. Martin 007 from Springfield, Missouri. We have Mark from Perryville, Missouri. Lisa out in Kansas City, what's up? Jimmy in Cleveland. We have Chris in North Kakalaki, as he says, North Carolina. Robert viewing us in Houston, Texas. Paul from Virginia. I be watching you in California. Steve from New Orleans, who asked if I could do a story about LaToya the Destroyer, their mayor. So let's get right into that. Mayor LaToya Cantrell of New Orleans was recently criticized for her excessive travel expenses, traveling around the world and charging it to the city of New Orleans. Black Lives Matter was so impressed, they offered her a job. Gen Z workers are offended by older people who use the thumbs up emoji, saying it appears hostile and super rude and dismissive. Well, I'd like to be very clear in saying you young folks are number one. Elon Musk's tunnel transport related business, The Boring Company, is bizarrely selling a fragrance called Burnt Hair for $100. Potential future fragrances include Wet Sock, Rotted Tooth, and Senior Locker Room.
Look at this dude.
NBC News correspondent Dasha Bernan is being criticized for her comments, saying John Fetterman had trouble answering questions during a recent interview.
I always thought I was pretty empathetic. Emphatic. I think I was very, empathetic.
It's pretty clear. This guy makes Joe Biden look like a wordsmith. 2 climate activists were arrested after throwing tomato soup on a Van Gogh painting at a national gallery in London.
How dare you!
According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, individuals who work at the Federal Trade Commission invest in stocks of the businesses that the agency regulates. Somewhere in Cincinnati, Pete Rose is pulling out the hair in his bowl cut. Troy Aikman is taking some heat over his comment telling the NFL to take the dresses off when considering quarterback safety rules. He's now done a 180 and insists that the dresses go back on. I'm AG, that's your story. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you want a shout out or for me to do a story about your city, leave your name and where you're viewing from.
Sorry,
I'd love to hear from you.
I ran on your part there, Troy Aikman. Yeah, they need to take off the dresses. I agree. All right, guys. I'm sorry. I hate to float my own boat, but this episode was on fire. All right. I need you guys to like, share, subscribe. Guys, if you're on my Facebook, make sure you subscribe and like, or follow and like. Like, you got to do all that stuff, and it really, really helps me. And it helps me reach you because I am buried. So I really, literally need you to tell a friend, not just even share it. Because if you share my post, they won't even show it. Because even though you shared it, it comes from me. And Facebook don't like me. Also, don't forget, Infinity the Math Institute. We are doing amazing work, especially considering this education and everything. We got kids who are knocking it out of the park. Perfect SAT scores, perfect ACT scores, taking calculus in high school, kicking butt. All right, go to themathinstitute.com or call or text 702-768-1777. And also, we have the most amazing team of tutors. So, anybody you know that needs help, it's not like math tutoring like you're imagining. We have fun and we understand the math, and that's what matters. Anything else I gotta say? All right, that's it. One last thing. We are the #1 conservative podcast in Nevada, and thanks to the Patriot Impact, I have armrests. My name is John Brookhagen. You're watching The Johnny Brew Show.